What's up, guys? Welcome to Prepare the Way podcast, where I prepare the way for men to discover the truth on how they're called to live. In this week's episode 5, we are talking about get out of the boat. So, I was recently reading in my quiet time about this dude named Peter. So, a real quick story. So, Peter was this dude who hung out with Jesus and the disciples. And so, one day, him and his crew, they were hanging out at a boat. And Jesus was about 200 meters off, and the storm was happening. And Jesus came to them, and then they were freaking out because the storm was happening. They saw Jesus. They really didn't know if it was Jesus, so they're freaking out. And they're afraid. And then Peter was like, "Hey, Jesus, if that's you, tell me to come walk on water." And Jesus was like, "All right, bro, come on." And so Peter steps out of the boat amidst this storm. And the dude freaking starts walking on water. But as he starts walking on water, he takes his eyes off of Jesus and starts focusing on everything around him. And he starts sinking. And then Jesus holds his hand out there and is like, "Hey, I got you." Now, I want us to focus on a couple of things here. I want us to focus on the boat because the boat is huge. Now, let's think about it, man. You and I only have a short amount of time here on earth. We really do if you think about it. You know, I've read that our lives are like a mist. They go quick. So with our time here on earth, the question is always what are you going to do? What do you want to do? What legacy are you going to leave behind? And so here's the thing about Peter, man. Peter chose to get out of the boat. Now think about the boat for a second. The boat was comfortable. The boat was in an environment he knew. The boat was safe. The boat was in his control. That is you and I through and through. The way we live our lives day in and day out, we live in these boats because, hey, I control it. I know what's going to happen. I know what goes on inside this boat. It's my comfort zone. I don't want to leave. But the more I think about it, man, the more I look at my own life, do I want to live a life of comfort or do I want to live a life of risk? Now, some of you, when I said risk, you said, oh, I don't want to live a life of risk. That's too much. Maybe just a little bit of risk. But think about Peter, man. Peter stepped out of the boat. The biggest thing he could have done was that first step of faith. The same thing you and I have to do. There is something in your life right now, the past couple months, the past couple weeks, heck, maybe even the past couple of years, that God has been laying on your heart to do, but because of that lack of faith, because of that fear that you want to stay in your boat because you don't know the outcome, you are paralyzed in that and you won't even get out of the boat. So here's the thing, man. You got to step out of that boat. But more importantly, and don't miss this, more importantly, it's what you do when you get out of the boat that matters, you see, because Peter, when he got out of the boat, things didn't change. The storm was still there. He was all amped up, full of faith, full of courage, full of boldness to step out of the boat. But when he stepped out of the boat, the storm was still there. It didn't change. And so Peter, all he had to do was walk towards Jesus, but he got so caught up into everything else, he took his eyes off of why he first stepped out of the boat in the first place, and then he lost it. Men, that's what we're going to do. Because you're going to take a chance, because you're going to take a risk. You're going to bet on yourself. You're going to have the faith to move forward in something that God's calling you to do. So you're going to step out of that boat. But what you have to remember is that when things don't go your way, when things don't go my way, when the storm starts to happen, when I start to sink, when I start to have anxiety, when I start to reach back towards my boat, aka my safety zone, my control zone, what's comfortable to me, I have to remember that I stepped out of the boat in the first place for a purpose. Just like Peter stepped out of the boat for a purpose. Because what's going to happen is whenever we take big steps of faith, there's always going to be storms that follow. So the challenge, man, is this, man. I'm doing this in my own life. I'm doing it big in 2018. And I want you to do the same thing too. Step out of your boat. Start living. Start thinking about the legacy you want to leave behind. Start thinking about what your kids want to think about you. What your grandkids want to think about you. Think about the thing that you've been wanting to do, but you've been holding back. Be like Peter. Take the step. Be greater than Peter. And after you take that step, keep your eyes focused where you need to go. Stop focusing on everything around you. Start focusing on what matters. Start focusing on the reason you took the step. And start focusing on the power that can get you where you need to be. So let's do it this week, guys. Let's take bold steps of faith. Let's get out of the boat. Let's take steps to leave legacies to be the men we're called to be.